Hey guys, make sure you watch to the end. Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and today we are talking about why low angle edges have better edge retention than high angle edges, and we're going to go into a lot of the variables and everything. Now, I know a lot of you guys want me to do a video on what grit does best on what steel, or what type of edge does best on what, blank steel, and I'm going to do that, so consider this like, part one. Now, I recently did a short, that's the under 60-second videos on YouTube about this, and I know a lot of people were confused, so I'm going to go into a little bit better detail because there are a lot of variables. There is, between your edge angles and steels, there's different steels, different heat treats. Some steels are tougher than others. Some steels have better edge retention. Some steels, have better edge stability. Some steel, just there's so many variables here. And then there's the quality of the heat treat, how it's heat treated. Now, talking about edge retention. Edge retention is your steel's ability to stay sharp at the apex and cut cleanly through something. So the apex of your edge is not going dull. That's edge retention. How long can your edge stay sharp without going dull at the apex? Toughness is a edge's ability to take impact. So a lot of people think that edge retention has everything to do with toughness, and yes, they kind of work together a little bit, but edge toughness is the edge's ability to take impact. Edge retention is its ability to pass cleanly through things with its edge. So both edges, regardless what the angle is going to have an apex, right? A high angle is going to be tougher. It's going to be more blunt. A low angle edge is going to be more acute, but not as tough. So this is sharper and passes through things better. This is tougher, right? Now, with your apex, so let's act like we are zooming in to this apex, and we'll act like we are zooming in to this apex. As this passes through materials with its apex, it's going to start breaking down. As it breaks down, it's going to start rounding over, right? As it rounds over, look at how thick this one is directly behind its apex. Directly behind its apex, how thick that is. So as this rounds over, it gets blunt. As this rounds over, it's still sharp. So even if it rounds over and starts breaking down, and before or by the time it gets to as thick as this is, it's going to be, a lot longer, right? This is going to stay sharp because as it breaks down, it's still sharp. It's still going to have the ability to cleanly pass through things better than something that's more blunt at the apex. And that's why a low angle edge has better edge retention and has a longer lasting edge retention than, say, something blunt now, or something with a high angle. Now, yes, this is tougher. So yes, this is more fragile for impact. Now, in order to take a fine edge, so edge stability. Edge stability is an edge's ability to take and hold a fine edge. So the edge angle, like the lower the angle and the better it can hold up with low angles, that's edge stability, or its ability to take and hold a polished edge. Now, those are three different things we just mentioned, but they still all, blend together to some extent, because you still want, even though you want a very sharp edge that passes through things and holds an edge very well, you also don't want a fragile edge. So you have to balance it in a way that's suitable for you. And, depending on what knife you have, what steel you have, how good the heat treat is, and what you do with your knife, we all do different things. Now, obviously, there are the the similar things that knives are really made for: paper, plastic, cardboard, rope, wood, straps, things like that. That's the most common things. But, people do different things. Like me, I did construction my whole life, and my grandma had a farm, and I worked on her farm, and I used my knife for everything. My knife was basically a multi-tool, so I understand needing a knife to hold up through hard use and things that probably a knife should never be used for. But we also have different tools, right? You're not, even though I've done it, and I know a lot of you guys do it too, even though you're not supposed to pry with your knife, you're supposed to use your pry bar. In many cases, if you're in a pinch, you might use your knife, So, and I get that. But, that's why you got to figure out what's best for you and what works for you. Now, I'm really going to mess your brains up when I say strength is different than toughness. Strength is going to be the blade's ability to, like, if I stab this into something, right, and I started prying on it, how much is it going to be able to take before it snaps or bends? How much can it take and still come back to true, nice and straight, before it doesn't come back to true or snaps, right? In most cases with pocket knives, we'd rather it snap than bend, but, everybody's different. Some people, want... it depends, right? And I say that because if it's bending, then it's usually soft and it's not going to hold an edge, right? The harder it is, the better it's going to hold an edge. The harder the steel, the longer it holds an edge, right? The softer the steel, the stronger, the stronger it's going to be, but the less edge holding ability it will have. Now, that's different than impact, right? So, toughness is the impact. Strength is what we just said. And also, how much pressure it can take and things like that. But, with the blade, it's calibrated differently. Anyways, or looked at differently. Now, a lot of people are using crap steels, and they're putting their opinion on top of a knife that is, one, in a crap steel, two, is done with a poor heat treat, like a really bad heat treat. And they're saying, like, well, my edge doesn't hold up with a low angle, it goes duller faster. But that's because you have a crap heat treat on your knife or a crap steel, right? You can't compare something that doesn't have the ability to hold up through anything versus something that actually is done well and cooked well and is, has a good quality makeup and structure, right? So, crappy gas station knives they're heat treated on conveyor belts with, and with really soft heat treats, and they don't have good edge stability. So, and I'm not saying that those still falls in the same thing. It's just its ability to have good edge stability is different. So it might not be able to hold a low angle as well as, say, another steel is. But it's still, though, the lower the angle, still the better the edge retention, as long as it's able to hold that angle. But like I said, crappy heat treats, you can't even consider those because they're brittle, they're not reliable, they're not even consistent. You could take 5 knives and they're not even going to be nowhere near consistent. The only consistent thing about them is they're all going to do a crappy job. That's it. So you do have to pay attention or know, or you want to know, I should say, that you have a good quality knife with a good quality heat treat. Now, your ability to put a good quality edge on your knife is different as well. Just because you said you sharpened your knife doesn't mean you sharpened it well. Doesn't mean, and I'm not talking crap. Listen, I've been there. I've done it. That's why I know. I've been the guy who was putting edges on my knives and thinking they were good when they weren't. And also wondering, like, why is this going dull so fast? Well, it was because I didn't have a good apex, or I didn't do a good deburring process, and lots of other variables. So there is a lot that goes into it. But maintaining your edge is going to be a huge deal too. Obviously we're talking about, without maintaining your edge, but you'll be able to get your edge to go a lot farther if you know how to maintain it and know how to keep up with it and things like that. And also paying attention to what you're cutting, paying attention to what you're hitting and things like that. You can make your edge go a lot farther if you're not smacking staples and lead pipes and things like that. Now, obviously I understand if you can't avoid it, hard work days, so on and so forth. I remember one time I was up on a roof. I was doing a roofing, and I had my utility blade, but I had left it on the other side of the roof. And I pulled out my Buck Marksman, which was a good quality knife, good quality heat treat, 154 cm, and I cut some shingles with it. I think I cut, I don't know, like 2 or 3 shingles. My edge was shot, completely shot. Of course it was. I was basically cutting through rock, not rock, but shingles, they have the pebbles on them. So, I can't expect my edge to hold up through something like that abrasive, that's so abrasive, it's obviously going to damage my edge. I should have used my utility blade for that. But even think about utility blades. Utility blades are very thin and are sharpened at very low angles. And those are like the most hardest use blades there is. They're made to cut aluminum and, tons of other things, right? So, and think about it, that's crap steel. Right? That's crap steel. That's not even good quality steel. That's crap steel because it's not made to be resharpened. It's made to throw away. It's made to be disposable and just replace it. But it still has, it's still very thin, very low angle, and it stays sharp for a very long time. Especially if you're not cutting aluminum and things like that. If you were just cutting vinyl and plastic and rope and paper and animals and things like that. But your steel, a good quality steel, has the ability to hold an edge even longer. I mean, that does have the benefits of the geometry, like we were talking about. But, if you have good geometry blade for your purpose and what you need, and you put the right angle for your needs, your edge is going to work the best for your needs. Obviously, the steel and heat treat is going to be very important with that. But it still doesn't stop the fact that this is how it works. And balancing this out for you is what you're looking for to make it work best for your purposes and what you do. Now, there's also convexing, right? We'll go into this really quick. So with an edge angle, like a V grind is a V grind, right? A convex edge goes like this. It can give you the ability to have lower angles with a little bit more toughness because it rounds. Well, then there's like semi-convexed, where you have a very low angle and it's very acute, but it's only slightly convexed. It's not, like very convex, it's just slightly convex, making you get a lower angle with better cutting performance and all that stuff, but it's slightly thicker behind the apex, making it a little bit more durable and tougher. Then there is micro bevels, where you basically just put a new edge, like if this is my edge, you put another edge right there so that this would be your apex. So you basically put an edge on your edge, making it a little blunter right at the apex to make it a little bit more stable. So, there are lots of different ways to do it, lots of different things, and lots of variables. All right, here's my Spyderco Manix 2 XL sharpened at 15 degrees per side. Now, it's about 27 thousandths behind the edge. I sharpened it to about 7/5 micron, right around 3500 grit. And then here is some wood. So this would be a toughness test. This would be my edge toughness. How well is it able to impact things? And this is just wood. So wood, is relatively soft compared to steel. And you see there's no real effect. It held up very, very well. Now, depending on how hard the wood is and things like that, it could affect your edge differently. But this is obviously a very stable edge for this type of impact, this type of toughness test. Now, here is an aluminum can. Let's smack it. That's one smack, which it didn't do any damage with one smack. We're going to smack it some more here in a second. But just to show you, it's still cleanly cutting paper. No problems at all. And I'm going right past the spot. And if there is a tiny, tiny little imperfection, you know, it's not even noticeable. You can see the smack right there. But let's smack it 5 more times. Now, that was basically in the same spot of the edge. So, you know, yes, there is a tiny bit of edge damage. I could probably hone it out very easily. It's barely noticeable on the paper, but you can see it kind of catching. Right there, you've seen it catch. So, right there. So, yes, it did. You know, that was the leaning point of this edge's toughness, at least hitting metal. Now, it's not that bad. I could hone it out. I could strop it out. But it did fail. It did leave a little imperfection in the edge. 5 smacks on an aluminum can. But, like I said, it's still cutting pretty clean through paper. You can see those couple little tiny spots. If I go fast, it'll just pass right through it. But it also might not be hitting that part of the edge. Right there, you've seen it hit that part of the edge. You can see that little tiny spot in the paper where it hits every time. Now, let's check out some 3V steel. So this next edge, this is 3V, CPM 3V. It's a very tough steel. And we're going to smack the same can. Now this knife is about 18 thousandths behind the edge. I sharpened it at 17 degrees per side. And after 5 smacks on the same aluminum can, basically about the same amount of pressure or force, it didn't show any damages, not even a little bit. I even did a close-up of the edge, and there was no damages, no nicks whatsoever. And here's a slow cut, just so you can really see that there's not even a tiny bit of imperfection. So, held up really well, but this is a super tough steel. Even though it has thinner geometry, it still is a tougher steel. Now, this would be edge retention. How well can my edge stay sharp cutting through, even if it's semi-abrasive materials, because different materials have different abrasiveness to it. So how well can your apex hold up through regular cutting and stay sharp? But maintain your edge, strop it often, hone it often, and don't let it go to complete crap, because then it just takes so much longer to sharpen and hone. But take care of your edges, and then, you know, they will work better and they will function better and be easier to maintain. Now, like I said, I'll go into another video on finishes and things like that, and what steels take what finish is better than others. And if you guys have any comments, concerns, anything like that, or anything you guys want to add in or mention, or anything you're confused about, leave it down in the comments. I'll try to answer it the best I can, or possibly bring up those topics in the next video. Remember, if your edge is going dull and losing sharpness, that's edge retention. If it's chipping or rolling, that is toughness. I love you guys. Peace.